Okay. Sana, you can hear me, right?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Very good morning.
Mhm.
Okay. So we have seen the Spring Boot, how to run a hello world programming, what is the rate of a Spring Boot application, what are the internal configuration a Spring Boot holds. Then after we have seen a development tool, like when we are doing any changes while your application is running, how it is picking the changes without restarting the Tomcat. Then we have seen the dev tools, profiling. Under profiling, we have seen that we have a different environment like development, testing, UAT, production.
Yes, correct.
And for each environment, we used to have a different configuration, different users, different database details. So instead of modifying the configuration in a single application or properties file, we can maintain the many different properties file for each environment, and we can feed the requirement and configuration according to that things, right? Then we started with
Yeah,
the actuator, and I told you that actuator is something your application is running, but you want to know the status of your application. Like it might be that in microservices, one of the services is down. Let's take example of e-commerce. So every services is working fine, but your payment service is down. And payment service is down, it means the whole business is stopped, right? Company will not start making
correct.
a money. So there is a
Yeah,
many infrastructure, many things has been written as an architecture point of view to make sure which are the running application that should not go down. We should know the status, we should know the health. We can also check the memory utilization of that particular services, how many beans has been created. So lots of informations are there along with your application. And before microservices was also it is important to know, but now in the world of microservices, definitely you need it, because until or unless you don't have a proper details of your running application, then it's a problem. So in one word, I can say it is mainly for managing and monitoring your endpoints or Spring Boot application. And how we can add the actuator in our application? Very simple, just one dependency, that's all. So after adding this dependency, automatically Spring Boot will be starting a one more Tomcat server, and there you can hit the endpoints for that actuator. So it's advisable whenever you are using the actuator, don't give the same port number. If you give server.port something where your application is running, it will be not good practice. Rather than there is some another configuration for this called management.port. Management.port is something where your another Tomcat is running and you can hit the actuator related endpoints. So if I run this application now, I don't have any specific configuration other than one pom.xml file added one new dependency for actuator. If you look at this is only for actuator, and one configuration I have added in my properties file called management.port equal to something. Whatever you want to give, you can give. That's all. An
yeah,
actuator is activated. That's the beauty of Spring Boot. I'm keep on repeating. You don't need to do lots of object creation, Java code writing, configuration, boilerplate code, lots of things. You don't need to do anything. And if I run this application, then you will be able to see what are the endpoints has been exposed and how we can take a help of actuator. This actuator is playing a very important role for a production system. So whichever application is running in production, you must have to check their status. So that if you look at here, now actuator has been started, and at the end you will see two things. One port is coming which is saying Tomcat is started on 8090, and another one is saying Tomcat is started on 9000. So our actuator, which is a management port, is this only. And these are the different endpoints. It is saying if you hit, you will get the information. And it is also giving you a hint, let's say for environment. So I will go to my browser, localhost 9000 slash environment. Look at this. These all informations are coming for your running application. It is saying profiler is not enabled right now because there is no profiler we have added. It's a default profiler. So profiles option is coming empty. Server port. What is your server port? 8090. What is your management port? This one. So accordingly, if you look at lots of informations are there, under which location it is picking the Java directly, JDK installation folder, Python is also somewhere it is using, So lots of things, which version of Spring it is there, which jar is coming from which location, blah blah blah. Lots of information are there, but to be very frank, we don't need much things from here. But yeah, you should know. After that, let's say
Yeah.
you want to check the status. For that, you have to give HEALTH, health. If you put health endpoints, can you see that it is saying a
Up.
status up, disk space related information, how much memory total, how many are free, what is the threshold value. Lots of things are coming. If you put info, it is not giving anything because we don't have any specific information for our application. Like this way, if you want to see how many object, how many beans has been created, you just go here and put like this, you know. Now you must be wondering like what are the endpoints are available, how can I come to know? Well, it's a documentation again. So whatever documentation I'm sharing with this actuator, it is also having one documentation under the same folder, spring boot.docs. Just open it, and I have already mentioned some of the important endpoints. With the help of these endpoints, without disturbing the actual flow of our application, we are going to check the status of all these things. And this is working completely asynchronously. If you are not knowing what is the meaning of asynchronous call, then let me tell you. There is a two kinds of call. One call is sequential and another call is concurrent. You know, so at the same time, your application can get many calls. In the world of sequential, if one of the customer is using your application and at the same time another customer is trying to use the same application, same functionality, he will be in a waiting queue. But it was a big business loss. That's the reason people started coming with the concurrent call. That is called multi-threading. With the help of thread, you are going to play around with the concurrent call. But now the world is moving towards the non-blocking call, asynchronous call. Asynchronous call is nothing but, let me tell you, it's a very, very important for all of you to understand this. In the beginning days, let's say this is client and this is server. So this this server is deployed in one of the Tomcat server. This Tomcat server is having a thread pool. Whenever any request is coming from client to server, just one thread has been assigned. Again, another request came, another thread has been assigned. Similarly, n number of requests is coming, then n number of thread are there which is working parallelly or concurrently. But now think about the situation. The moment you came to the server, the moment you came to server from client to server, under server you have noticed we have a controller, we have a service, we have a DAO which is a repository, and we have a database, right? So
Yeah.
the each call is very important and it might take some good amount of time. Think about, somebody has asked you the details of an employee along with the department, along with the address. They are looking for many informations related to employee along with their reporting manager from the database, and these informations are sitting in many tables, like in employee table, department table, address table, management table, company table. There are lots of tables. So now what user
Yeah.
have to do, they have to write a join query, and join query is very, very complex, and it is always hitting the performance. So think about this thread T1, the first request which came to this server, it's a thread T1, and thread T1 is saying, hey, give me this data. This server is saying, wait a second, I'm processing your data. Once it's done, then I will be giving to you. So now this thread is waiting. He will be not going anywhere. It is in blocked state. Means till now the response is not ready. This particular thread will be waiting for the response. If server is slow and doing some performance related problem it is facing, it will impact the whole thread. Think about your application is very critical. In 1 second you are going to get 1,000 requests, but there is a limitations of number of thread. So if you see the limitations of thread, it is a pure core Java, guys. Limitation of Java thread. So you will be getting some number. It is my 250 or something like that. I have read it. But you should, what is the disadvantage? Or I can write how many max thread, how many max thread in Tomcat. See, it's a 200, right? So you have only 200 thread to start your all request. Imagine the situation, something is wrong. Your server is making a call to the third party API, and that third party API is down or it is super slow. You will be finding that all of your 200 thread is completely blocked. And after that, if any user is making a new request, that will be hanged, you know. So that is saying simply you will get a response like server is busy, server is not available, something like that. You must have faced sometime if you're browsing over the internet. So idea is pretty simple. All the threads are busy serving the other request, and they all are blocked because server has not yet given the response. So this is called
Right.
blocking call. People are talking about non-blocking call. Nobody wants that their thread should work and the request have to be rejected. Rather than they wants to keep on getting this request. Once response is ready, it will automatically pop up to the client. Means what? Callback. I don't know whether you guys have heard about this term or not. It's a callback. Callback mechanism is allowing your thread to continuously working without waiting for the response. So JavaScript functions are almost using the callback. So the moment your response is ready, automatically one thread will display the response. So idea is what? This thread came, taken a request and submitted to the server. That's all. He will not wait for the response readiness. Rather than he is free and he will be start getting a new request. Now when server is ready, automatically there is a callback function bind inside that. The response is ready, automatically the particular user will be notified or the data will be given to them. Got it? So
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
called one sec, guys. Okay, so this is the latest trend, guys. And without having the asynchronous call inside your application, it's quite not possible now this day to develop an application. So you must have to look quite more inside asynchronous call, what is callback, and how it is possible. But in high level, idea is let's not block the thread, rather than let them work continuously. So why I'm discussing all these things? Reason is having a management port separate will allow you to have a more request coming to the specific to that particular server. Let's say you have not given the management port. It means what? your actuator is also running on the same port. This is a application port. Your application is getting a request from the client, and at the same time this guy is also making a call to this server. Then out of 200 thread, minimum let's say 10 thread is busy serving this management port. So it's not a good practice. Let's have a two tomcat running. It means you have a 400 thread. Whatever application specific URL is there, that will come from this tomcat server port, and whatever it's related to management and monitoring, it will be coming from this port. And that is the reason we have given two port. So you need to understand in depth everything, what is the advantage and disadvantage of all the points, so clear guys? Any doubt, any
Yes, sir.
question?
No.
Sana?
Yes, sir.
Clear, sir.
Cool. Was we getting?
Yes, sir.
Superb, guys. Well, so as I told you that Spring Boot is highly configurable, but you just have to feed the application.properties file. You don't need to give lots of XML and other files like Java creation. You just go to this application.properties file. Whatever application related configuration you want to put, you just feed this application.properties file. And don't worry about something went wrong. If I type something wrong here also, that's not a problem. It will not fail the application. Your compilation, your running things will be going smoothly still, even though you have some junk value inside the application.properties file. So if you are using only the application.properties file inside your application, then you should know what are the possible configuration. For example, actuator key is management.port. Who will remember this? It's not possible actually. That's the reason a Spring Boot is providing you a full documentations related to the all possible configuration. And here is the URL inside the note.txt or inside the application.properties itself. I have given this URL. You just need to copy this and paste into your browser. Look at this. Here you gonna get the all possible properties related to your application. For example, you are implementing a CASI. You know CASI? CASI is mainly used for improving the performance of your application if you have a very much read operation of static data. It's very, very important to understand that as well. When to use CASI? Can I use CASI inside the employee table? Can I use a CASI for transaction table? Answer is yes, no. Yes, for employee table, you can use CASI, but for transaction table, of course not. You should not allow to do a CASI for transaction table. Let me tell you why CASI is important. Inside the organization, we have a employee table. An everyday employee is not going to be changed. It is a kind of static data. So whenever, let's say, your application is keep on going to the database and hitting the database, fetching the employee data, and for each call, for each request, you have to do this. Answer is don't do this. Why don't you hit a employee table one time and store this in your memory whenever request is coming to you related to employee, rather than going to the table? You can get the data from a hash map or array list, whatever you have. So that's the main uses of CASI. If you guys know Hibernate, Hibernate is providing the CASI level 2. I'm pretty sure Sana you can relate now what is the use of CASI. So whatever configurations related to CASI is there, what are the possible? Look at this. These are the different configuration along with the description Spring Boot has been provided. Similarly, if you are using a Java mail API, means from Spring Boot application, you want to send a mail to the third party. Look at this. These are the configurations related to that. Similarly, you want to change your log related things. See, all the logging related things are here. So highly configurable, and this URL is going to give you the properly used configuration for each concept. Let's say you are using the dev tools, right? And you want to see what are the different options for dev tools. Look at this. Here are the all possible configurations for dev tools. Got it? So you need to understand whenever you need to do some sort of configuration change, look at this page and figure it out what is the proper key for my application. Understood?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Super. So this is the URL will give you. So no need to remember what is the server dot port, what is the management dot port, what is the log related configuration. No need to remember. No one can remember. They have to take a help of
Right.
documentation, and according to your requirement you can change the configuration. Let's move ahead, and we are going to talk now the very important concept, which is the core concept of your application, especially a Spring Boot application. That's called REST API development. In 90% case, a Spring Boot application is actually a REST application. In fact, I will say 95%, where you have to expose the endpoints, and whoever is a client, they will be accessing that. So I'm talking about REST API. And it's very important for you to understand what is REST API and why we need REST API. Before discussing about REST API, I need to bring you the concept called web services. How many people has heard about web services? Nikhil, have you ever heard web services?
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Yeah, web applications. Yeah.
Not web application, web services. It's a different term.
Okay.
Web application is an application which is running on web server or running for
Yeah,
internet.
web dependent. Yeah.
But there is something called web services. Wasvi, have you heard about it?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm pretty sure Sana must have heard about it. Yes, Sana?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Web services is very important concept in the world of software, guys. And you will suddenly relate it what I'm talking about. So whenever you are doing online purchase, you are
Yeah.
giving a details of your credit card, right? Or debit card,
Right.
whatever you hold. This debit card, credit card not belongs to that particular e-commerce company. For example, if you are doing a shopping on Amazon, then Amazon is not holding the details related to your credit card, whether it's a valid one or not, whether you are blocked or unblocked, what is the status of your card. All these informations are sitting in the bank system, right? Let's take an
Mm.
example. Amazon is developed in Java, and your credit card, which you might be holding for a Citibank, this is in .NET. Now, for doing a successful transaction in Amazon, they have to make sure that the user which is given the details related to their credit card, whether it is valid or not. If it is valid, then the particular amount supposed to come from that bank to the Amazon, and how it will be possible. So in one line, whenever two application wants to communicate with each other, then you need a web services. And now you can relate.
Right.
Every application have to communicate with many applications, and this can be only possible if you have a web services. So each e-commerce companies and all, what they used to do, they are knowing the endpoints for the particular bank. They are sending the data to that bank. Now all the verification and transaction is taking place in bank system. So if you look at that, automatically your URL is going to be changed to the citibank.com, something like that. The whole transaction
Right.
is taking place there. And then after Citibank is sending the response, okay, this transaction is done, and you are back to the client application. So without web services, not a single application can communicate with each other, right? So that's called web services, a services which is provided over internet. and many applications are there. They have their own open web services. Whoever is a web services provider is known as service provider, and whoever is using that web service is called web services consumer. So in my current example, Amazon is a consumer and Citibank is one of the web services provider. Now, web services can be categorized in two categories: SOAP and REST. SOAP is nothing but simple object access protocol. So this is one of the categories of web services. And REST is representational state transfer. So these are the two categories of web services. SOAP is highly configurable and it is using the XML. Because of protocol, whenever you are saying protocol, it is having a set of rules in the sense set of commands, and whenever you have the rules, you have to follow that rule. That is one of the restrictions inside the SOAP or any protocol. So now this day people are completely not using the SOAP web services because it becomes legacy because of XML, and everyone has moved to the REST API. That is the latest and one of the highly usable web services in Java or any application I can say. That's called REST, representational state transfer. I'm not going to discuss too much about REST, but high level definitely I will give you. REST API development is one of the tutorial, and there is some sort of a specification. So I will highly suggest you try understanding and reading about the REST API as much you can, because in industry every Spring Boot application is a REST API. So you should know what is REST API and how to develop. I'm going to talk right now. But there's a lots of things to learn. You will be learning slowly. But SOAP is one of the legacy web services which was used by industry in the beginning, but now this day it's not going to be used. Now this day people are only talking about REST API, which is one of the web services. Under REST, we have mainly four method. What are those? You know the CRUD operation, right? For creation, you have a post method. For getting, you have a get method. For updating, you have a put method. For deleting, you have a delete method. So guys, you need to understand these four methods. So these four methods are only specific to REST API. Whenever you want to create a record or you want to insert a record, you have to use a post method. Whenever you want to get some data from the server, you have to use get method. Whenever you want to update particular record, you have to use put method. And of course, whenever you want to delete some record, use the delete method. So these are the four specific methods related to REST API. Going forward, we are going to use all these methods frequently with any kinds of application development, because every application is having a CRUD operation requirement. So if you have a CRUD, you cannot escape yourself without using these methods. Now, each method is having some specification. Try reading as deeper you can learn, as deeper you can practice. But high level, this is the things. Now, out of these all four methods, some methods are read only method and some methods are write only method. For example, write means whenever your value is changing in database, that's called write operation. For example, post. If you keep on calling a post method again and again, then what will be, a new record will be started inserting inside your table. So what you come to know, it is changing the database state. It means it is a write operation. What about get method? Get method is only going to the database, and whatever data is there, it is reading that. It's not changing the data. That's the reason get is considered under read method. Put method. Again, put method is changing the state. Initially, there was some other data, but after update, the data state has been changed. It means again, put is a write method. Delete method. Delete method is also one of the write method because you are going to the database and deleting the particular record. So read, write, two categories are there. Get is only for read. Other three methods are for write purpose. In REST
Okay.
API, there is something called idempotent. Idempotent method. You guys know that? Idempotent. So the meaning of idempotent is, you can Google it. So the meaning of idempotent is saying denoting an element offset of which is unchanged. Yeah, in one line, it's unchanged. So out of these four methods, if somebody is asking you which is the method idempotent, then you have to think. First, is post method is a idempotent? Means if you are keep on calling this post method again and again, whether it will be not making any much impact. Answer is no. If you keep on calling the post method again and again, it will be keep on inserting a new record inside your table. So it is not a idempotent method. What about get method? If you keep on calling get method thousands time, you will get the same data. Data is not going to be changed if you keep on
Changed.
hitting the get method. Think about put method. Put method is also a idempotent. Why? Because first time it has updated the data something called ABC as a name, and second time again you are updating what will be same data is coming, right? Name equal to ABC, name equal to ABC. It is not having any impact if you keep on calling this method again and again with the same data. What about delete?
Great.
Yes, delete is also a idempotent method because once record is deleted, you are saying delete employee ID 13. Employee ID 13 is deleted. But again, you hit delete employee ID 13. What will be? Data itself is not there, so there will be no impact. So these three methods are okay to call again and again with the same data. It will not make much impact. But post method, if you try hitting again and again with same data, every time new records are going to be inserted. So idempotent is one of the terms. Remember, it's a part of REST API. Most of the people don't know, but in an interview, it is one of the hot questions. So if you are saying, I know REST API, then they will ask you, what are the four methods? What are the post specification? What are the idempotent method? What are the read of methods? What are the write of method? When to call post, when to call get, when to call put, when to call delete. So these all informations you should know, and high level, this is the fundamental. Rest all you can deep dive and get the information. Any question, guys?
No,
Good.
sir.
Was we getting the class? It's purely theory, so I think you can
Yes,
get it.
sir. Yes, sir.
How about you, Sana? Enhancing your knowledge?
Yes, yes.
Super. Keep asking the questions, guys, if you have any doubt. Well, so web services we learned, we understand the tags of that and which is latest and useful is rest. So rest is good to know. I'm not going to teach you so. Okay. One second.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have a further requirement, you can deep dive. I don't have any sample example also. This guy is having one XML file called WSDL file called web services descriptor language, and all the information for service provider and service consumer are mentioned in that XML file. Somebody is coming and reading that XML file, and then after it is going and doing the further things. Okay, one question you guys can ask me, or you should know at least, why XML is bad? What was the reason people had came out from the XML? XML is costly. The reason is, whenever you are reading the XML file, you need a help of parser. There is something called parser. To read and writing the XML file without parser, you cannot proceed. And these parsers are of two types: SAX parser and DOM parser. SAX parser is only for reading purpose, but DOM parser is for both reading and writing purpose. So this parser is actually a very costly operation. It is taking too much time for loading and converting the whole XML into a Java object, which is called marshalling operation. And whenever you are converting Java object into a XML, that's called unmarshalling operation. If you want to know more about this, then I will help you. I will give you. There is something called JAX-B. JAX-B, you just read about this library and you will get it. What is the parser, how JAX-B work, what is marshalling, what is unmarshalling. All this process you will be understanding in more better way. Got it, guys? But still,
Uh,
it's Yasana.
so for JAXP, it is just related to SOAP web services. Because in the project we are working correctly on, I think it is a REST API, but it contains just XML files and they are using JAXP Java.
No, actually, JAX-B is not a REST API library. It is just a one small
Mm,
framework which is mainly dealing with the Java to XML and XML to Java. It is
okay,
nowhere related to web services and the REST API. Whatever you are
okay.
talking about might be there is something called Jersey. Jersey is one of the library which is used for developing a REST API. But now this is also not going to be used. The reason is people are having a Spring Boot. So Jersey was again used by industry long back, but now it's not going to be used. Under Jersey, we are having the REST API. For SOAP, you have a protocol, so there is no something called API for SOAP. It's pure a protocol. Whichever is a protocol, for that you have to use the configurations.